Okay, we're going to look at how we would create a 4-variable KMAP. The 4-variable KMAP is going to share similarities to what we have done so far with 3-variable KMAPs, in that we're going to have one axis be 2 variables, A and B, and then the other axis be 2 variables, C and D. So we're going to create a 4x4 grid. The way we label both axes are going to be similar to 3-variable, in that we're only going to have one bit change. So we're going to start with 0, 0, 0, 1. We're going to have the first bit change to be 1, 1, then the bottom bit change to be 1, 0. The rows match up exactly like our 3 variables. Okay, so if we're going to look to see what's inside, let's highlight different letters in different colors. Let's have A be blue, B be green, C as purple, and D as red. So if we're going to fill these in, it looks like the entire column is all of the blue 0. The A is 0. The column for B, we'll fill in as it all being zeros. C, it'd be 0 and a 0, and then a 1 and a 1. And then D will be 0, 1, 1, 0. So what does that mean for us in terms of midterms? Well, in terms of midterms, it is that it starts off with M0, M1, M2 is at the bottom, and then we come back and we fill in M3. You can go ahead and fill out all the rest of the spots with these blue, green, purple, reds, and you would generate the next column being M4, M5. You skip to M6, come back, M7. Then we're going to skip a column and do M8, M9, skip the row, M10, come back, M11. Then the last column, M12, M13, M14, and M15. All right, so that's how we can go about filling out these KMAPs. Okay, so what are the potential groupings? So what groupings can we do? Well, we can have a group of 1, and on a group of 1, you're going to have all 4 variables. You'll have A, B, C, D, for example, all 4 variables. Okay, well, you could do a group of 2. Group of 2, you would drop one of these variables. You get 3 variables because you're going to be removing one item. From a group of 2, the next size would be a group of 4. That will leave you with 2 variables. And then the next size is a group of 8. It'll leave you with 1 variable. Remember, it's only those combinations that you can have. 1, 2, 4, 8. No 6, no 7, no 3. It's 1, 2, 4, or 8. All right, so let's look at a few combinations and see what kind of groups we can make. Remember, everything that we've done on 3 variables and 2 variables reply. You know, we can have a group of 8 that spread around. Okay, so a group of 8 that spread around. What are these items we're using? Well, we use every column, so A and B is changing for every item. C change, but that would just be a D bar. Okay, then maybe we have a pair. Or let's do a little bit larger. Let's say we have group of 4. Well, group of 4, that would be, we'll see what bits stay the same. A is 0 and 0, so A is going to be there. So that's A bar. B was 0 and a 1, so B changed. We're not using it. C was 1, 1, so C still remains. And then D changed. So we just have AC. And then let's say we have a group of 2. Well, in a group of 2, we see what stays the same. A is still a 1, B is a 0, so that's B bar. C is 0, 0, so that's a C bar, and then D changes, so D would be left off. So we can see how it is that we evolve our items. Now, there is one unique situation with a 4 variable that we did not see before. And what that's going to be is we can have the corners match up. So we can have the 4 corners. So the 4 corners are always adjacent, because if we look at this spot, it's adjacent to above, to the left, down, and to the right. Well, we're using the up to the left and to the down. On this side, what are we using? We're using the up, and we're using to the right. What is this one using? Down and to the right. What is this one using? Down and to the left. So if we have that set up, let me just write it out again, so it's a little bit cleaner. We're going to use everything in the corners. I can group the corners together. Grouping the corners together, we're looking to see what bits stay the same. A is 0, A is a 1, so A is gone. B is a 0, B is a 0, so we know we have a B. I have 4, a group of 4. That means I'm going to have 2 variables, so let's look at the rows. C was 0 and a 1, so C is out. D is 0 and a 0, so we're left with D bar. All right, so we can't have the 4 corners line up. All right, so let's do a few examples. Let's see how we would create our groupings. And we're going to go ahead and put in don't cares, so we can start looking at how we fill out with don't cares. So let's say we have a 1, a 1, a don't care, a don't care, a 1, and a 1. And let me throw in a few more don't cares. All right. If you want to, you can put in the zeros, or you can leave zeros out. It's all up to you on how you want to do it. So let me put in zeros. You can solve it without writing in zeros. Okay, so where we want to start is we're going to look at each item. And let me just draw a little bit on the side here, because I'm going to ask for each spot how many groupings we can have. So let's start with this spot right here. So we look at this one, how many potential groups it can have. It can group to the left. That's a pair of 2. It can group down. That's a pair of 2. Or it can group the 4. And that'd be a group of 4. So it has 3 possibilities. There's 3 possible ones. Let's go over and let's do the next corner. How many possibilities it has? Same items. It can group on the same row, looping over. It can group on the column, looping over. It can group the 4. So it has 3 possibilities. Let's look at this one here. That one can group a group of 2, the 2 ones, or can do a group of 4 using the X's. So it has 2. Same thing with the next one next to it, has 2. But what about the single one up here? It has 1 possibility. It can only be grouped with the X below it. So we're going to start off with the ones that have 1 possibility first. So I'm going to say, okay, that's a group I want to make. Okay, so what is that term going to be? You look at A, it's a 1, B is a 0, so it's a B bar. Then we look across the rows, C stays the same as a 1, and then D changes, so D's out. So I did this one. Now I can see, okay, let's keep moving along. The next items we want to look at is once you want to first take care of locations with one possible group. Second item you want to do is largest group. So in here, we have 2 that has a group of 4. So let's just pick one of those 4. Let's do this entire row. Well, what is that row? Every A and B changes. So we have just a C and a D bar. And then this item here, what would be our third thing we were going to do? We repeat the second part. We keep repeating until we get down to all ones being covered. So I can say, okay, let's do the group of 4s. We've done that already. That's a B bar, D bar. All right, so then I look at this and I say, okay, all the ones have been covered. All the ones are covered. We're done. There is no more moving through that we need to do. All right, let's do one more example before we end. All right, so in this example, let's do okay, so let's do something like this. Okay, the rest would be zeros. Let's show how we do it without filling in zeros. We're going to accomplish the same way. Okay, the first thing we're going to ask ourselves, is there anything that has one possible grouping? Yes. One item that has one possible grouping is this one by itself. There's nothing else it can be grouped with. We're going to take care of that one. That's an A bar, B bar, C, and a D bar. Okay, the next one that has one possible grouping is the one on the top. It can only be grouped with the X. So we're going to group that. That's A and a B, and then C stays the same. So we have a C bar. Next item that only has one grouping is we'll do this pair in the green. That is, the B stays the same, so B bar, C bar, and a D. And then when we're done, we have one left, one that is left. We always do the largest group. Even though we could just group a group of 2, we're going to group a group of 4. That helps us better. And that would be A and a D. All right, and that would be our entire way of how we solve. Now it's fine if we reuse terms. So like I can reuse the one that was in green. I can reuse the X that was in red. I only reuse items if it allows me to cover additional ones. So this one that was used in the orange, I'm going to reuse the X. I'm going to reuse the green one because it allows me to cover a new term. We would never go through and group in this one in X. That's not needed because it's already been covered by the orange term. All right, so that kind of gives us a how we do for variables. Next item we're going to look at is how to fill in a KMAP if we're not given midterms, if we're only given a Boolean expression.